Ryan Little.
Japan.
What's going on, everybody? CJ John coming at you here, sitting in front of EGA Racing Division, Acura Integra. So we're off to the side today. Got a couple things going on in the car in preparation for 2021. But in the meantime, I'm going to be answering a few questions I've gotten over time on how to turbo an automatic Integra, Honda, pretty much any B series. As you guys know, I've had this thing turboed while it was an automatic a long time ago. And I'm going to answer a couple questions I've gotten today. And let's get started. So the biggest one being is, how do you tune it? So pretty much you're going to tune it like any other vehicle. I've actually gone a lot of dyno shops when I was originally reaching out, and a lot of tuners say, no, we can't do it, which now I don't know why they honestly couldn't. It made no difference whatsoever. The guy who finally did tune it, he pretty much tuned it like any other Honda, any manual. One thing I will say is, I guess one thing I could see is on the dyno, it's a little bit harder to tune, being that you can't physically stay in one gear. You have first and second gear, and then third gear starts the automatic, where the computer starts taking over. So, you know, you have to really ease in at the throttle, and you can't really get the low RPM range unless you're in a lower gear. So that's the only problem I could really see with tuning it. But I used Honda S300 V3, same thing I have in the car now. When you're tuning it, you're just tuning the engine only. The transmission has its own separate controller. So, you know, I don't know why people say you can't tune these things, or, you know, it's such a big, you know, theory that they're hard to tune and you can't tune them. You tune it just like anything else, and it came out fairly well. So another thing I'll say is, expect lower dyno numbers. When it was on 93 pump gas, we did about, I think it was 185, 190 horsepower, and that was on 7 pounds of boost. And that was a bone stock LS with an eBay turbo. This is a T3, T4, the hybrid 54 trim or whatever it is. So I've heard numbers up to like 250 on 7 pounds of boost on a manual transmission. So LS, GSR, I know you're going to get slightly variation in there. But yeah, so expect a little bit lower dyno numbers. You lose some power in the torque converter. So with that being said, we're going to move on to the torque converter. One thing I will point is that the torque converter will eventually start to fail and they slip. So I've had a lot of problems on the track. If you go back, and we'll throw a clip up here. But if you watch that and you listen, you could hear when I'm changing gears, that's a torque converter, like it was really slipping, and it wasn't just changing gears quick. So that was when it starts to fail, and that's pretty much when you know you might want to start shopping around for another one. But so torque converters are usually the first thing to go, and they're very weak. So on to the next question is, how do I shift? Again, as you see in some of the videos I posted, I reach down, you can see me changing gears manually. Well, the gear selector for an automatic has first through fourth. Now, first and second are just first and second gear. Third gear is when it's third drive, so that's when the computer starts to kick in. And if you leave it in third drive, it won't go past third gear, but it'll do first, second, and third. So, and then you got fourth drive, which is just fourth gear or drive. So that's like when you're getting in, you put it in drive. So you got 1, 2, 3, 4, and 3 and 4 being an automatic drive gear. So that's how I was shifting. And the reason being is, when you put the turbo on and you get a little more power, the computer starts to get very confused on the shift points, and it was just slipping really bad. It was just downshifting for no reason at all. So I absolutely recommend manually selecting your gears, unless you're just going to be easy and just cruise around. But as soon as that thing gets in a boost, it gets all thrown off, and you don't know what gear you're going to end up in. So definitely pick your gears. Another question is two-step or launch control. How do you set that up with an automatic? I know a lot of people in a manual, they use a clutch switch. In an automatic, you could select the brake switch. If you're using Honda, you'll see in the launch control option, you can pretty much select whatever. There's different options for inputs. I was using the brake switch, or you could set it to a separate button, which I did over time. But once you're actually in gear, the torque converter locks up so quick at such a low RPM that you can't set the launch control, because once that torque converter starts locking, it'll start rocking the car. So you got the brake pedal held, you're in first gear, you got your launch control going. Once that torque converter locks up, it starts rocking the car. It's like bop, 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 bop. So it just never worked right. It's pretty much at this point for rolling anti-lag, which you can set up, or it's just for show, car meets, you know, popping and banging, shooting flames, pretty much all the stuff the kids like nowadays. But so it is possible you set up your launch control just like anything else. You just use a separate input since you won't have the clutch switch available. So now I'm going to go over pros and cons. I've thought of a few, and you know, I think in this situation the pros are kind of good. So one big thing was it was very fun and different. It was extremely fun. Anyone can drive it. Anybody could just hop in, you know how to drive an automatic. And you get to slap shift the gears, so that was kind of cool. But again, it slipped in between, so that's a little downside. And it was very different. Again, I've gotten a lot of DMs, a lot of messages, and even some emails on how it was done, because a lot of people are interested. You have an automatic Honda or an Acura that you want a turbo. You know, I've gotten a lot, because I guess it's not very common. So it definitely was an eye-opener, and it brought a lot of attention, surprisingly. When I was at the track, a lot of people would look in there and they'd be like, wow, it's an automatic? So that was pretty cool. I really didn't want to switch over to a manual, but for what I'm doing with this, it was just a given. You know, that automatic wasn't going to fly unless I spent thousands building it, so we're going to get into that also. Used transmissions are very cheap, so like when this transmission finally went, we picked up another one on eBay for $100 Facebook for $100 with the torque converter. So that was just drop the old one in, slap the new one in, done, and $100. So you're gonna have to factor in some transmission fluid in there. It does take ADF fluid. It's like $60 to fill it up. So call it 160, 150, depending on how much you find transmission for. I even know some JDM places, they'll sell automatic for, you know, 150 with a warranty of some sort, somewhere around there. But yeah, so it's very cheap. If you do blow yours up, $100, you got a new one. You just got to do the labor and swap it out. And again, the pros, anyone can drive it. If you know how to drive an automatic car, if you know how to drive, you can drive a turbo automatic Honda. Now we're getting into the cons here. So again, it's very prone to failure. I haven't actually had any issues with the transmission itself, but again, the torque converter slipped really bad. And what happened with the first transmission is one day just driving down the street, it got really hot and transmission just started slipping out of gear. And then eventually we had no more gears. So what I had to do is let it cool down. We got it back to below operating temperature. I actually let it sit for like hours on end. And I was actually able to drive it for like another 5 minutes, and then as soon as it got up to operating temperature, slipped right out of gear, and I lost every gear. So that's a big problem, and I believe that's torque converter failure. So I never really looked into it again. I just bought a $100 transmission, threw it in, and let it rip for another couple months. So another con is expensive to build an automatic. I was looking into it because some people sent me some links. I lost them over the years, but it's very expensive. The torque converter alone, an upgraded torque converter with a higher stall and is actually meant to handle some power, they were like $600 alone. I know you can get like an ACT clutch kit for like $400, brand new. So $600 for a torque converter is a lot, especially with the, you know, loss of benefit as opposed to just swapping for a manual. But if it's something you really want to do, I guess there's always the option out there, and they did have transmission rebuild options. I guess they changed the valve bodies and stuff inside to make it handle more power and be a little more aggressive. So there is an option out there. I forgot the website. I'm sorry. Wish I still had it, but this guy had all kinds of stuff on there to build those automatics up. Another con is it's very heavy compared to a GSR, LS, or any manual transmission. It was like well over 100 pounds. I took 2 people to unload it out of the truck and get it in the driveway, as opposed to just any manual B-Series transmission I can pick up by myself and carry and, you know, slug around wherever I need to bring it. I could actually load it into the car almost by myself if my arms were a little bit longer and I was a little stronger. I'm pretty sure I could maneuver it in there, but pretty sure if you're jacked, you could probably load this transmission in by yourself, but it's very light. It's like 70 pounds. So that's, I think, with a little bit of fluid in it. Another con is the automatic transmission hooks up to a radiator. So you'll see if your car is an automatic right now and you go outside and look, you got 2 lines that come off of it and they hook into the bottom of your radiator, and you're utilizing your radiator to keep that transmission fluid cool, which is why at the track or, you know, driving on the street a lot and beating it up, it would get really hot, the car would overheat, and then on top of that, that transmission would start to slip because that fluid is now heating up. The viscosity is getting very thin, and it just doesn't work right anymore. So it gets really hot. One thing I almost wanted to try out is, if I still had that setup, is running an external cooler specifically for the transmission. You know, bypass that radiator, maybe put a manual transmission radiator in, and then run an external cooler. I guarantee you would have had much better results, but I didn't really think about it at the time. I didn't get to try it. I was just really eager to stop changing transmissions, so that's why I put in a manual. But yeah, that's pretty much all I got on here. Overall, it was very fun. If you got one, I'd say go ahead and do it. Just get Honda S300. Don't go chipped. We tried that chipped option for a little bit, and it didn't work out so well. It's kind of cheap and like an easy way out of it. So definitely just get Honda, pay someone to tune it. If they tell you no, there's really no reason why they should. But you know, some shops are the way they are, and they're only going to tune certain things. So, but right now, for those who were wondering, the manual got removed, I think, well over a year ago, and I put in a GSR transmission, full GSR gear set, and it was just geared really low. So then I swapped them out. Now I have an LS 1st through 5th with a GSR final drive and a Quaife LSD. So all Synchrotech synchros and seals and all that good stuff. So swapped over a long time ago. I will never go back, unfortunately. If there was another option, maybe more aftermarket parts available, a little bit better price, then yeah, it would be a lot cooler. Or if you could tune them, that'd be cool too. But that's pretty much all I got for you guys. Again, you know, any more questions, leave them in the comments below. I know this is a very popular topic for some reason. It was very odd to me that a lot of people are this interested in turboing an automatic. So, but I guess there's a lot of you out there. So hope you guys enjoy the video, and hope you guys enjoy the information. Stay tuned to see more stuff with the Integra. We're getting ready to chase some crazy numbers at the track. I'll be going back soon to see what she'll do, and we're getting ready to turn her up a little bit. So catch you guys next time. Hope you guys enjoy. Make sure you hit that subscribe button and stay tuned.